Next speaker, Ken Smokoska. Did I get it right? Ken is Director of Clean Energy Initiatives for Sierra Club, California, Vice Chair Conservation Committee, Sierra Club, California, and has extensive experience in marketing clean energy to communities throughout the state, especially in San Diego, where projects have linked up schools, disadvantaged kids, trade unions, and juvenile rehabilitation programs to train kids in renewable power. Jack Kaplan was just talking about that. So, Ken, we welcome you tonight, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Nice to go clean up.
Yeah.
What we're really talking about is a sense of urgency with climate change. So, I mean, how many folks in the audience have seen An Inconvenient Truth? Okay, so I don't need to go there. We understand that we have a sense of urgency, and John's slide showing how much of the Bay County would be impacted on Marin's side. One thing that's happening on an international basis, Rotary International is hoping to vote soon on a climate change task force.
Would you move your microphone up a bit? Yeah, there you go.
Sure.
There you go.
I'll speak up a little bit more. But Rotary International is looking to have a task force on climate change. They right now have about 500 clubs internationally that are looking at this as a club project. So you got the potential that the business community is going to wake up to the same sense of urgency that we understand from seeing the film. If you take a look at some of the things that are happening around the area, and I'm just going to scan on those real quickly. Chula Vista just announced last month a plan for 90% renewable energy, a little bit of peak natural gas power, but to eliminate a natural gas power plant on the South Bay. They're looking at that for a couple reasons. You got environmental justice with air quality impacts. You've got economic impacts of redevelopment, that coastline there. And also the opportunity with CCA affords them to build out distributed generation. Now, why is that only 90%? Well, if you're building distributed generation, you save about 10% by transmission losses, so you only have to achieve that 90% to equal what you're importing. So you got a 10% kicker right off the bat. What I like to say is the steps involved. First step that you have is the lowest hanging fruit is conservation. How you design out Marin County and rebuild Marin over the next 30 years. You know, if you had a zero energy new home codified in the general plan in an energy element, first of all, you're not generating new demand. And then if you start to replace every new roof that you have with a building integrated photovoltaic roof. The county did a GIS program a couple years ago that's just state of the art as far as demonstrating exactly how that could be done. You've got all the tools here in Marin County to do that. You know, second, you have efficiency, and Barbara talked about how that's very cost effective. And then you have renewables. You know, when you're looking at 50%, I think you might want to start to think about looking at 100% plus, because what you're missing is that's just electricity consumption, but you got transportation. If you start to design a plan to build out over 100%, then you can feed that back in with some of those plug-ins and electric. You can start to drive that too with incentives to take cars off the road. You know, why not have a free pass with Priuses that got 4 people in it that they're plugging in when they get in? You're going to get a lot of draw from that. So, and then when you take a look at the solar thermal and geothermal, very low hanging fruit. So what we're doing is, and one of the studies that was just reported to the county is fossil free by 2033. That's what that plan starts to do. It starts to eliminate our importation of fossil fuel for both transportation and power generation. Today's New York Times, 9-page feature on green business. You know, it started talking about how this is truly an economic opportunity and that the communities that focus on it now are going to reap the benefits. So CalPERG did a study a few years back that showed that for every megawatt of electricity generated by solar, 700% more jobs are created. So should we be building any natural gas plants? Should we be building any coal? No. We really, from an economic standpoint, when you really weigh that all out, you're much better off just building out that distributed generation here locally. And here's where you have another sense of urgency. On John's slide, it showed an LNG tanker. Well, there's an LNG terminal proposed in Coos Bay, Oregon. Now off of that, it's going to be a 230-mile pipeline through forest. So they're going to clear cut a 70 to 100 foot swath, and then they're going to tie that pipeline into a half dozen power plants in Northern California. Well, that LNG train's $5 billion in investment. How can we invest in the renewables if we invest in that? So that's what I'm going to leave Marin County, is the sense of urgency to implement a plan, file that plan. You know, after a plan's been filed, you've got 90 days before the CPUC certifies it. So you have another 90 days even after you submit it to modify it. You know, after you submit the plan, maybe something comes up that Tucson's doing something special and they got solar concentrators out of Tucson Municipal, where they're looking to say, you know, we've got a lot of desert that's not being utilized, and we think we can take our power and just utilize it through both transportation and power generation. So, sense of urgency, we got to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.